So good afternoon and thank you for joining us. My name is Antonella Giancarlo. I'm a Senior Communications Officer with the City of Hamilton and I will be moderating today. Before we begin, I'd like to please ask everyone who's not speaking to put your microphones on mute until you're called upon just so we can avoid any background noise. I'm picking up on some of that now, so just want to ensure that we're on mute before we move ahead. Great, thank you. I also want to advise everyone that this media briefing is being recorded and it will be posted publicly. Media are asked to keep their questions to the topic of potential service disruptions and bargaining updates as it relates to CUPE Local 5167. I would like to introduce and welcome the city spokespeople here with us today who will provide updates and answer questions. Janette Smith, City Manager, and Lora Fontana, Executive Director of Human Resources. With that, I will first turn it over to Lora Fontana, who will provide some initial remarks as it relates to ongoing negotiations. Lora, please go ahead.
Thanks, Antonella, and hello to everyone and welcome. In terms of our current situation, as you folks know, we're currently bargaining the renewal of several collective agreements with the city, and more specifically, our CUPE Local 5167, which is our inside-outside workers, approximately 3,200 members in that local. We began collective bargaining with this group in February of this year, and we've completed approximately 18 days of negotiations. In May, the CUPE Local 5167 advised the city that they would be informing their members that they filed for a provincial conciliator to assist in the negotiations of the collective agreement. And they also advised the city that they would be holding a strike vote, and they did indeed, and received a strike mandate from their members. So the conciliator has been appointed, and essentially the conciliator's role is to assist the parties in the negotiation of a freely negotiated settlement. On July 21st, they informed their members, CUPE did, in terms of their asking for a no board report, and that's basically a legal process where the either party can ask the conciliator for a report that upon the expiration of the issuance of the letter in 17 days puts either party in a legal strike or lockout position. And as a result, the Ministry of Labor issued the no board report on August 4th, which means that CUPE would be in a legal strike position as of 12:01 on Monday, August 21st. So we've currently been working on a labor disruption contingency plan, and we're preparing for the potential labor disruption. We continue to meet as a planning group, and we're ensuring as best as possible that all city services will be maintained. And we'll execute and activate the contingency plans in the event that the labor disruption were to commence next week. So essentially recognizing that all services may not be maintained during the labor disruption, and while we regret that this is the case, we will do our best in terms of making it as seamless as possible, and also make available to the residents of the city all the information in terms of mitigation and contingency plans. And we'll hope to also keep staff and residents informed on the status of negotiations as best as possible, again, recognizing and respecting the collective bargaining process, and respecting each other's right to information being maintained confidential at the table, and also striking that balance with ensuring that the residents are aware of the disruption and any contingency plans that we have in place, and moving forward, and hopefully avoiding any major disruptions to the residents of the community. And again, ensuring that we keep the lines of communication open. And our ultimate goal is to reach an agreement without disruption of services to our city. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. That's great. And on that note, we'll turn it over to Janette Smith, City Manager, who can talk a little bit more about potential service impacts.
Thank you, Antonella, and thank you to Lora Fontana for the overview and for updating our efforts to get a deal that's good for both employees and our community at large. First and foremost, we do recognize that that a potential labor disruption will have an impact on communities and residents throughout the city and on services that Hamiltonians rely on that could be significantly reduced or suspended if negotiations are unsuccessful. And so, it's for that reason that we'll continue to come to the bargaining table as a willing partner and with a sincere desire to get a fair deal. And I can say we remain very hopeful that a deal will be reached and we will continue to bargain in good faith. But it's also prudent on us to make sure we do have contingency plans in place. And we also give that information out to our stakeholders and to the public at large with your help about what the impacts are so that individuals can also do their own contingency planning on the services that they use that may be impacted if we do find ourselves in a strike situation with the absence of 3,200 staff members. So what I want to do is just confirm right up front that not all services are impacted. And we will have a full list of services that will be impacted on our web, and I'm going to walk through. But first and foremost, I want to just confirm with everyone that transit, paramedic services, fire services, our long-term care homes are definitely not impacted. And that's just to name a few of the more high-profile ones that will continue, and we'll have a full list of those online. But now I want to go through which ones will be impacted. So we know that many Hamilton residents rely on city services from childcare to garbage collection to animal safety services. So it's for that reason that we're taking steps today to let members of the community know what we are preparing for. So as I said, they can take their own contingency planning underway as well. So here's the areas that we're expecting some service impacts. In city-run childcare services, programs and services at city parks and recreation centers, animal services, bylaw enforcement, solid waste, and garbage pickup and drop off for some areas of the city, development applications, public health inspections, parking enforcement, road and sidewalk operations, services the city operates on behalf of Public Ontario Works, customer service lines at 546 City, services at museums and libraries could be impacted, marriage ceremonies, and a number of services at City Hall. And there are some changes to council and committee meeting structure. A full listing of these services can be found on the city's website, hamilton.ca/service updates, along with an overview of the changes to service levels we anticipate. We'll, of course, be maintaining anything related to health and safety, but I would highly recommend everyone goes to that website to get the detailed specifics. For example, what areas of the city that garbage will continue and what areas will not. So what we are doing is we're going to aim to mitigate the service disruptions wherever possible. And as I said, we're going to focus on those critical services where there's health and safety implications. With 3,200 employees, it does mean we have to make some choices and prioritize those health and safety areas and other services we cannot continue to provide, and we'll redistribute staffing to keep those essential ones going. We will be reaching out to our community partners to let them know what we expect that services we provide on behalf of or in conjunction with community members may be disrupted, so they can again turn their attention to contingency planning. And it's also true for organizations that are operating events on city property or with the use of city services. These events may themselves be disrupted, They may be canceled or postponed, and we want to ensure organizers have the information they need to make the decisions they need to at this time, and we'll go out to each of them personally. So how are we going to keep the community up to date? In event that we are not able to get an agreement and there are service disruptions, we'll be taking steps to ensure members of the community stay up to date, as I mentioned. So what we will have is a dedicated web page to labor relations updates and service disruptions. Again, hamilton.ca/service updates. There will be an advertising campaign to ensure individuals know where they can get information. There'll be media updates like we're having here today. There'll be social media updates. We'll have a dedicated electronic newsletter that citizens can sign up for on the city's website and get updates delivered directly to them. And we'll also be doing council updates and reports as they become available. Thank you so much for joining us today so you can help us get these messages out, and we're happy to take questions.
Thank you so much, Janette and Lora. I've just popped in the chat the members of the media who are with us today, and we'll follow that order for one question and one follow-up. If time permits, we'll do another round of questions. I'm going to go to Eric Viano from CHCH first. Eric, please ask your questions.
Hello there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, okay. So you were obviously talking about how you're going to be using other city staff to kind of make up for those health and safety ones. Can you maybe give a list of the services that maybe you wouldn't be prioritizing, the ones that would maybe be impacted the most?
Yeah, so for sure, we have contracted services do part of our garbage or waste pickup, and in other parts of the city, it is our own city staff. So those will be impacted. There'll be information about waste depots where people in those impacted areas can take their garbage for drop off. Our directly operated childcare center will not be operating, and we won't be operating all the parks and rec programs as well. Areas where, we have to investigate pet dog issues, etc., where there's a health and safety risk, they'll continue. People can continue to get their dog licenses online, but not at the actual center where you can usually come. We won't be able to do marriages or affidavits. Individuals will need to go to their neighboring municipalities. So all that list will be on the website.
Great, and I don't actually have a follow-up right now.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Eric. I'm going to move down to Matthew Van Dongen from the Hamilton Spectator. Matthew, please go ahead.
Hi, folks. Thanks for taking the time. I'm sure the question that everyone has burning in their mind is whether they'll still be able to pay their taxes or not.
Yes, we will have drop-off boxes for people to drop that off. And also people can still do that through their financial institutions for those that don't have direct withdrawal out of their accounts. And I'll be dropping mine off as well.
Oh, good to hear. And maybe as a follow-up, if you could expand a little bit on the sort of emergency or health and safety services that will continue, and maybe not even emergency, but I was thinking, in terms of Ontario Works or the where the city works on behalf of the province. Is that sort of stuff going to continue, or?
Yes, for sure. So we have individuals in Ontario Works that rely on getting checks through us, and those absolutely will continue. We'll make sure they get their money. There are responsibilities as service system manager for all childcare centers if there's serious occurrences, etc., and those obviously will be will need to continue to happen. So those are the types of ones that will continue.
And sorry, just to maybe help you continue your answer there for a second. I know in some cases maybe road operations might be scaled back. But again, if you have a pothole the size of, the intersection, is that something that will still be fixed?
Absolutely. If signal lights are out at traffic stops and things like that, where that's a definite health and safety, those things will be addressed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Ken Mann, 900 CHML, please go ahead and ask your questions.
Thanks very much. Understanding you can't get into negotiations, but are you able to speak in general terms of how far apart the two sides are in hopes that you can avoid a strike?
So maybe I'll take that question. Thanks, Ken. So I need to preserve, as I'm sure you can appreciate, the confidentiality of the matters at the bargaining table. I think, I'll say that, we're working towards a successful resolve to the collective bargaining process. It's always financial that remains an issue outstanding at the table. We've got the fiscal responsibility in terms of striking the balance of negotiating something fair and equitable for our members, and then striking that balance with our fiscal responsibilities to the taxpayers in our community. So it is, financial. The issues that are outstanding have financial implications. In terms of whether or not we're far apart, I think we're going to continue to bargain in good faith and continue to be optimistic that we can have a successful resolve to collective bargaining and have a freely negotiated settlement without the need of having a labor disruption.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Did you have a follow-up question?
No, not at this point.
No, no problem. I just wanted to double check. Thank you. Don Mitchell from 900 CHML. Going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks for taking my questions. I guess the question would be for Janette, and it's obviously services are going to be impacted. You've got a whole long list of it. Is there any particular one that you're significantly concerned about? And with that, do you have any advice to residents on how to mitigate it as we go through the strike?
Yeah, I will tell you, when any of our services are impacted to residents at any time, it could be a storm, labor disruption, you name it, that concerns me. Because we're here to provide service to the residents and businesses of Hamilton. So any disruption for any reason concerns me a lot. I think my main messages for the community is to, and you can help us get this out, is for them to really go on that website, clearly look at what's impacted potentially as of Monday morning, and look at how that directs them. So I think a lot about, because at one point I had a small child. If I had my child in a Parks and Rec program that I was wanted to make sure my kid was going to there while I was going to work. So that's one that comes top of mind to me just because of my experience as being a parent. So that one for sure. I think, for those who in the heat of the summer have garbage pickup, they'll want to know where those recycling centers and depots are going to be to get that, because you're not going to want that sitting in your garage when it's really hot. So those are just a couple of examples, but for sure the most important thing is for people to go online and look and start thinking through what would it look like on Monday. I remain, very hopeful we're going to get agreement. We're going to be at the table all weekend if needed to do that. But it's my responsibility for us to also make sure we have plans in place and that the community is aware of what impacts there could be.
And in terms of what staff, if with the amount of people that will be on strike, with what you have remaining, is there any types of relocating or shifting that you expect to different divisions?
Yes, for sure. We have an operations team that will look at, where we have those emergency issues pop up, that we can move people from non-essential over to those issues to deal with. And that kind of centralized team will manage that on a day-by-day, hour-by-hour basis as needed.
Thank you for those questions. We also have Prapti Bamania here from CBC Hamilton. My apologies if I pronounced that correctly. Please do let me know. Go ahead and ask your questions.
Thank you. So my question is, are there any public health and safety concerns from possible pileup of garbages and the pause in park cleanup?
So for sure, when it comes to those depots where we could have garbage, we'll be putting all those things in place, whether it's pest control, etc., to make sure there isn't any health and safety risks. And in terms of parks cleanup, it will be monitored. It won't be as tidy as it would, but if there's serious health and safety concerns, that's where, you know, we have some redeployment to take care of those serious ones. But it will not be the same level of service in the parks that you see today.
Thank you. And my second question is, the union says that there is money available to pay for staff, and that there's been an increase in wages to managers, but not others. Is there a response to that?
I'll jump in, maybe Laura, you can add. So we have a number of different union groups that we'll be bargaining with. We also have our non-union recruitment and retention strategy that we rolled out earlier this year. Laura and I were out talking to you before. And so, you know, there's often differences in any of the different collective agreements or non-union and union based on where overtime applies and doesn't. So we may remain committed to being that employer of choice and getting a deal that's fair both to all our employees as well as the taxpayer. I don't know if you want to add anything, Laura?
Thanks, Janette. I would simply, I think, add that the recruitment and retention strategy that we, excuse me, rolled out in the I think the spring of this year was in response to our attraction and retention issues that we were experiencing with our non-union group. And the increases that were applied were essentially to bring them into compliance with our corporate compensation related policies. So there wasn't anything out of the ordinary that we did. Quite frankly, we were catching up on years prior that there was some areas that we needed to address from a compensation perspective because we had fallen behind, quite frankly. And we are dealing, you know, basically with the same approach with our mandate, our collective bargaining mandate now with our unionized staff. And it's the same, you know, fair and equitable approach that we will be addressing the bargaining units with. And we are, you know, always with a sense of having that fiscal and financial responsibilities and how we negotiate our contracts and what increases are applied across all employees, union and non-union alike.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for your questions, Prapti. Crystal Debu from In the Hammer in Saga is also here. Crystal, please go ahead and ask your questions.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for taking my question. I wanted to find out about the garbage pickup. You mentioned that some areas will have it while others won't have pickups. I'm wondering why or how you came to that decision that certain areas won't have it if there's a strike.
Yes, I'm just pulling up so I make sure I give you the right information. So right now, how the services around waste pickup are delivered across the city, where part of the city is delivered through contracted services and other parts of the city are delivered with our own city staff. And I wasn't here for when that decision was made, but that's the reality of was. Curbside blue box collection will continue because curbside blue box is a contracted out service. So a decision was made by council long ago. So blue box will not be, but curbside collection of garbage, green bin, and yard waste, it'll continue in the areas of Stony Creek, Hamilton Mountain, Ancaster south of the 403, and Glambrook. But areas in the lower city, Dundas, Flamborough, and in Ancaster north of the Highway 403, they do get services provided by city staff. So those are the areas. And again, I'd ask everyone, because I know people are listed in zones for their garbage pickup, that they look on the city website just to confirm.
Okay, thank you.
Crystal, did you have a follow-up question?
Will you be tapping any contractors, or will the staffers be redeployed so there won't be any contractors to do some of the work?
So in terms of, fair bargaining, we won't be bringing in contracted services to take over the services that our city staff currently do. That wouldn't be appropriate. Where we have contracted services now, like in certain parts of the city that do garbage, they'll continue. But where the services were provided by the city staff as per garbage, no, the contractor will not be replacing them. Laura, anything to add?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Janette. The contractors that are currently in place will continue. Where there's a health and safety issue or risk or things that are more of an emergency nature, we will deploy other staff throughout the organization. We're also negotiating a strike, hopefully a strike protocol agreement with the unions, addressing some of the more emergency related areas so that we have proper staff available in case we need to redeploy them. But for the most part, the services will be disrupted only in emergency health and safety related circumstances. Will other staff be redeployed to address those areas again on a one-off basis, just to address the emergency nature of whatever the issue may be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We have a few minutes left, so I'll just go through the list again and see if anyone has one additional follow-up question. I'll start with Eric from CHCH.
I do not have a follow-up question at the moment.
No problem. Thanks, Eric. Matthew Van Dongen at the SPEC.
Hi, I think I do. City staff, I guess, are used for all sorts of things, including, as I think you mentioned, helping with other people's events, depending on whether they're on city property and the like. So I guess I would ask, if a strike does go ahead, would that mean you would have to effectively cancel an event like a super crawl, for example, or if you had a long running strike, a Grey Cup?
Okay, well, let's not go there. Yes, so there are events, and they're all quite different in terms of scale and what supports they need from the city. So it's hard for me to give like a blanket statement on what the impacts are. That's something that we'll have to work through and notify each of those individual organizations and look at that because they're all quite different.
Okay, so let's just use the super crawl example. That's quite not too far down the road at all, and it's not on city property, but it probably involves a lot of help from the city in terms of organization and security and the like.
Yeah, I Matthew, I'd be really challenged to provide a specific answer on a specific event without looking into it, and I'd be afraid I would be giving you the wrong answer.
To be continued then.
To be continued.
Thank you, Matthew. Ken Mann, 900 CHML. Did you have a follow-up question, Ken?
No, I'm fine. Thank you all for the time today.
No problem.
Thanks for coming.
Don Mitchell.
Yeah, wondering, you probably may or may not know this off the top of your head, but just some ballpark numbers for me. So 3,200 potentially could be going on strike Monday, how many people does that leave you with on city staff and any of those contractors?
I'm looking at Laura.
Yeah, so we have approximately 8,500 employees citywide. 75, maybe closer to 78% of our workforce is unionized, and the balance is non-union. So all of the other services that are represented by the other bargaining units, we have 11 unions throughout the organization. So all of those services will continue. It's the CUPE Local 5167, again, inside, outside, the administration that are affected. In those areas that require a more emergency-related response, we'll redeploy staff, primarily non-union staff. We won't be hiring contractors to do that work, but all other services that are provided to the city will continue. It's those areas that Janette identified earlier.
Yeah, so things like transit, fire,
Yeah.
paramedics, long-term care, our water services, wastewater services, none of those are impacted.
Great, thank you. Prapti from CBC Hamilton, did you have a follow-up question?
Yes. So my question is, will the measures change depending on how long a strike goes on? Like, will anything, any of the measures change at all?
What I can say is, as I said, we have an operations team coming together, and they'll continue to look at that if we get to. And we're obviously very hopeful we get a deal and we don't have any strike at all or a long one. We'd have to continue to always still prioritize the health and safety.
Thank you so much. Crystal from In the Hammer, did you have a follow-up question?
Oh, I don't have a follow-up. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. And I also just want to acknowledge a question in the chat from Matthew Van Dongen. For clarity, has the union indicated to the city if the intention is to strike as of Monday without an agreement?
I'll answer that question. Matthew, we don't have any indication right now. We're meeting again, as you know, on Friday with the assistance of the conciliator mediator, hoping to get an agreement on Friday. But in the event we're not able to achieve that agreement on Friday, the parties will decide on how to proceed. We've got Saturday and Sunday. The strike deadline isn't in effect until 12:01 on Monday. So that's really will be determined on what the agreement is at the table at that time.
Thank you very much, Laura, for addressing. So that concludes today's media availability. If any members of the media do have follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to me or to mediarelations@hamilton.ca, and we will endeavor to get you the additional information that you're looking for. A reminder, there's also the dedicated webpage for all of the service updates that will be updated as more information becomes available. I want to thank everyone again for making the time to join us today, and I wish you all a wonderful day. Thank you.
Yes, thank you again. We really rely on you to get the information out to the public, so really appreciate it.